Good afternoon. Hello. Guys, welcome to this afternoon's webinar on this grey, wet, cold, wonderful day that makes me feel like I'm at home. I'm not even kidding. I love this weather.
I believe you. I hate this weather. It makes me miserable.
Yeah. And on that note, where are we from, Michelle?
On that note, hello, singular viewer. My name is Michelle. If you've been here before, you might have seen us. I'm a teacher in Milano Meraviglio with Liam, and I'm from Pakistan. I'm living in Milan for 3 years now. That's about it.
Yeah, and yeah, guys, most of you, I'm sure, have probably met or seen Michelle and I, but for those of you who haven't, or for those of you watching later, because our one viewer left very quickly, my name is Liam. I'm 30 years old, and I come from Manchester in the United Kingdom. So for me, this weather makes me feel like I'm at home, because this type of weather is a very typical Manchester day. Grey, a bit cold, it's wet, it's raining, it's wonderful. Makes me feel very happy.
Right, and meanwhile, I'm from a country which is close to the equator. So this weather is very strange for me. We only have this weather in around August. Yeah, just for a few months, just for a few weeks in August. And that's just about it.
So wait, August is your like
monsoon.
That's the monsoon season, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you don't get any rain, except when it does rain, it's kind of insane. It's kind of crazy, right?
Yep, absolutely. When it rains, it's usually torrential rain. So it pours and pours for days. And because we get rain so infrequently, the cities in the south aren't prepared for rain. Though this has been happening every year in August since time immemorial. So one would think they would figure it out by now, but no, they haven't. And so we usually have massive floods.
It's like so they always think maybe this August it'll be different. Is that basically it? That they just hope that
they just hope it's going to be different, it's going to be better, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that. And the city usually gets flooded to the extent where the water comes up to your knees in some localities.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, we get quite a lot of flooding in the UK as well. We actually had really bad flooding. Just like at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, we had some very bad flooding as well.
Really?
Oh yeah. And again, it's kind of a bit similar to what you're describing in Pakistan in August, where every year it happens, and it's like the government just hopes that it won't, but it comes every time. Yeah, monsoon season, very good. I also thought flood, flood, we would say is an unusually high level of water. It's like a real deluge of water. And is it also, Michelle, I guess the big difference between flooding in Britain and the monsoon flooding in Pakistan is the humidity? Is it very is it hot and it's raining as well?
Absolutely, because right now, even though it's just April, it's already pretty hot down there. Yeah. So as the months progress, it gets hotter and hotter, and some parts of the south reach 50 and above.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's boiling. So when it rains, it's already very humid in my city because we're right next to the sea, and then we have the ocean as well. So it does rain a lot, and in the monsoon, and then it gets very sticky. So you have this layer of sticky grease on you the minute you step outside.
You, please remind me to book my next holiday to Karachi in August. It sounds delightful.
It's absolutely horrid.
Is it like, for example, I have not been to that part of the world, but I have been to a very hot part of the world, which is Qatar in the Middle East. And I've been there in the summer when, again, it's like 50 degrees on some days. Is it similar where in Qatar, you just live inside either a shopping center or a cinema or your house, even your car is better than being outside because of the air conditioning?
Absolutely. Everything is air conditioned, your cars, your cinemas, your homes. And I think that's one of the reasons that you can really see the disparity between people who are well off and people who struggle to make a living. Because, everyone from lower middle class upwards has an AC unit, but AC unit is an air conditioner. We call them ACs. You can also call them air cons. It depends where you are in the world. It means the same thing. So they all have some sort of air conditioning unit, but of course the poor don't. And it's really sad because a lot of people die from heat strokes.
Yeah, it's. I feel like it, and not obviously today's topic isn't climate change, but I feel like we do have to say that it's happening more and more, isn't it?
Yes.
These what we call heat waves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like unusually long, long periods of unusually hot weather are becoming a more frequent phenomenon in that part of the world and others.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you may have read this, but countries closer to the equator are feeling the effects of climate change stronger than countries away from the equator, which means countries like the Pacific Islands, for example, are faced with severe flooding, severe droughts, storms, which is not commonplace in that part of the world.
No, I do. I have read about that, and also in particular, Bangladesh is in a very vulnerable position because it's a very low country, isn't it? And it's a perfect combination. It's very low, it's very densely populated, and it's very poor, which is a great opportunity for climate change to damage it. And I know they have a lot of problems with flooding and with rising water levels, but also in Pakistan. I mean, I know flooding is also a problem for farming, for agriculture, for example.
Absolutely.
And I come from a country that still is quite a large agricultural country, the UK. We farm a lot, so it's a problem for all of us, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And
just setting you up for your Monday optimism and positivity here, guys. Yeah, by the way, if you like coronavirus, you're going to love climate change, let me tell you.
Your morning newscast. Brought to you by Michelle and Liam.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, if you think of this as a dress rehearsal for what climate change might do to us.
Because I actually agree.
No, it's true. And also, Michelle, what you said is so true about countries in the Pacific near the equator. Climate change for them isn't some future possibility. They're living with it now. It's the present tense, not the future tense for them. People sometimes talk about climate change like this could happen, this may happen, this is happening right now.
Yeah, the sad part is that until you see it affect you directly, you tend to believe it's in the future, it's a myth, it's not that serious. But when you listen to the news reports coming out of these countries, they are being affected by it right now. There are people who are literally picking up everything they own and moving away because they think that within the next 2 months, when the monsoon season starts or when the rain season starts, their place where they live will no longer be habitable because it will be underwater. And that's scary.
That's really
scary. Very scary.
And yeah, and they're called climate refugees. That's what we refer to them as. You see it in Central America. Lots of people leaving parts of Central America. People going to Australia. A lot of those are climate refugees. It's as you say, until people actually encounter it, they don't think about it. But it is coming. It's coming like a heart attack.
It is coming. Yeah. I mean, look at Australia. The fires that they've had. That is insanity. And I don't know if you need any more proof. You have tornadoes like never before, fires like never before. We have locust plagues in Pakistan and Africa.
Oh my God, yes. There was a terrible locust plague in East Africa just like a month ago. Somebody pointed out that this was like the Bible. We had locusts and now we had sickness, someone say, because basically, people who are atheists like me are about to be dealt a really devastating blow, basically.
Yep, these are the end of the times. But before we get biblical,
absolutely,
let's jump into today's lesson. So today we are talking about education. The past simple. We are going to relive our past school experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we are going to learn how to use their are and their were.
All right. Very good.
Okay, I see that we have a singular viewer. If you would like to write in and tell us about your experiences, we'd love to hear it.
Mm-hmm. We would. And yeah, so we've got, how many questions here? We've got 3 questions here. Number 1, did you like going to school when you were a child? Number 2, where was your school? And number 3, what didn't you like about school? Well, I mean, it depends, I guess, what time in school we're talking about, I guess.
Right. Okay, so which part of school did you like?
Yeah, so I think what we can say is in let's see. In Britain, basically the periods in school, I'm just going to kind of do a quick thing.
Okay, here we go.
Sorry, yeah. I'm just writing it the way. Mm-hmm. But that would be the British system, roughly. You start off in nursery. Then you move on to what we call reception. That would be kind of like preschool in America.
Right.
Then you move on to what we call primary school. And you're in primary school from the age of 5 to the age of 11. Mm-hmm. Then you go to secondary school from the age of 11 to the age of 16. Then you go to college from the age of 16 to 18. And after that, you can then decide if you would like to do a vocation, if you'd like to go to university, or if you'd like to finish your education and find a job. And that is in a nutshell, that is the British education kind of pathway.
And how is that different from the American pathway?
Well, it's very similar but there are some important differences. One of them is obviously the language. For example, in the exercise on the screen, the levels of school in this exercise, this is American vocabulary, and it's the American system. So, for example, kindergarten is reception in Britain. Okay, that's for very, very young children. You're kind of first time in education when you're usually 4 or 5 years old. Mm-hmm. Then comes elementary school, and this is like primary school in the UK. It's when you're like we could say like a pre-teen. Then this is the big difference. Americans have middle school, which is also like in Italy, scuola media, which I think in America, I'm not even 100% sure if it's like from the age of 11 to 13 or the age of, I'm not even 100% sure how it goes. Because for us, it's just primary school and then secondary school. There's just 2 stages. In the US, they've got 3 stages. That's the big difference. difference between us?
Yeah, I think their middle school is better.
Sorry, we just lost you for a sec, Michelle. What'd you say? Sorry?
Right. So in America, I do have some schools, do have some friends who didn't go to middle school but went to junior high, which is a term that they use interchangeably.
Oh, so junior high and middle school are the same thing?
I believe so, because after junior high, you have high school. So.
Okay. I thought maybe it was like middle, then junior high, then high. I thought it was. Oh, okay. Never knew that.
But I think it also depends because on which state you're in, because I believe things are a little different in each state.
Right. Sure. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. What about in Pakistan, Michelle? What's the pathway of education there? Is it more similar to the British or the American system?
It's a little bit of both, actually. We have two pathways. One is the Cambridge pathway, which of course we have. So that's what I did, which was exactly the same as the British pathway. And then we have the metric system, which is a local educational pathway. So it's very similar. You have nursery, and then you have elementary school, or how did you put it? Primary school, and then you have secondary school, and then you have college. But what differs is the material taught in it. So in the local pathway, we focus on local subjects and local languages. So we learn languages like Sindhi, Urdu. If you're in the south, you learn Sindhi. If you're in the north, you learn Punjabi, so on and so forth. And then you have college, and then you're done.
Okay. And when you say like local subjects, sorry, what do you mean by that?
Like the local languages.
Oh, okay, so it's the language, right? Okay.
Like the local languages, and then of course you have an option after secondary school to not go to college but go into vocational training.
Right. So that's like the UK as well.
Yeah, it's very similar. It borrows some concepts from America, but very limited. And that's just lately. But traditionally speaking, we've always followed the British format in one way or another.
Right. Okay. So that's a legacy of British colonialism in the region. Yeah.
Absolutely. The school I went to is a leftover colonial school. It's called the Convent of Jesus and Mary.
Okay. So you had so there is, but again, the similarities. Also in Pakistan, there are religious schools.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
No, because I mean, in the UK, we have, there are Hindu schools, Jewish schools, Catholic schools as well, for example.
Okay, so here's the thing. So the religious schools, like the Catholic schools in Pakistan, they're few and far in between. I think there are probably 3 or between 4 and 5 in total in the entire city. And of course,
in the entire city or in the entire country? Sorry.
No, in the entire city. I'm just talking about Karachi.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So there are like 4 or 5, including boys and girls, in the entire city, and those schools have branches in other cities as well.
Okay.
So it's those 4 or 5 branches that operate nationally. And we do have some religious schools which focus on Islam as a religion, and they are called madrasas.
Yes.
Right. So sometimes they have a bad rep. They do get a bad rep for teaching kids some unsavory things.
I'm so not going to get into this.
Yeah, I'm just going to skirt around it.
Yeah, if the ISI is watching this conversation, she's kidding, I promise. But wait, I do have a question though, Michelle. You described in Pakistan the metric and the Cambridge. You said those are the two.
Yeah.
How do you decide which one to do? Is there what's the pathway Oh, okay, right. It's money. Is the
It's
Cambridge
money.
one more expensive?
Yes, absolutely. The Cambridge one
Right.
is obviously internationally recognized, and it's so much better because it's easy to apply for unit to universities and colleges and things like that. But
Okay.
of course, it costs a lot. Cambridge, the exams alone cost a lot. The Cambridge schools are all private schools,
Right.
and they cost a lot. So if you have money, you will send your child to a Cambridge school. But it's a massive investment in education. So it
Right.
really
Okay.
depends because the fees are high, and then of course, there are all these extracurricular activities, and
Right. And
so
is it generally considered to be superior?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Because also in terms of how they're taught, so the Cambridge schools are very, very serious because they focus on ensuring that their students can compete on an international playing field.
Right.
But
Okay.
whereas the metric schools, they focus more on rote learning, which means learning things by heart and being able to reproduce them, on upon request, as opposed to really understanding the subject matter and producing, and answering questions which challenge your critical thinking.
So it's a bit more of a traditional kind of what we would think of as a more old-fashioned way of learning.
Absolutely, it is very old-fashioned indeed.
Copying and repetition.
Yep, that's all it. I mean, when I was in school, that's what the metric system was about. Perhaps it has evolved in the years. I hope it has.
Okay, maybe, yeah. I mean,
Maybe.
sometimes I have to remind myself that it has been like 15 years since I was at high school, and maybe things have improved.
Yeah.
And just on this, on the thing about private schools, because we're talking about the differences in vocabulary. So there's this strange thing where private school, a school where you have to pay individually to attend, strangely in Britain is known as a public school.
Right.
Because the idea is it is paid for directly by the public.
Right.
In America, it's called a private school. Then, just to make it more confusing, public school is the one for all people, which in English, in British English, is known as a state school. It gets a little confusing. If a British person talks about a public school and an American person talks about a public school, we're talking about two very different things, and it does get quite confusing sometimes.
Yeah, that did confuse me initially, because when I first went to London, I would say I went to a public school. I went to a private school, and there was always this miscommunication between public and private.
How old were you when you went to school in London?
22.
Okay.
22, 23.
Right. So, yeah, the 5 stages of school that you can see on the screen, because I think our one viewer, oh, some message just popped up, but I think it's just on your computer. Yeah, I thought that was something in the lesson for a second. Yeah, middle school. I think usually in America, middle school is between the ages of 10 and 13 or 11 and 13. I'm not sure. I think it's something like that, which is similar to Italy. It's kind of like pre-teen.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think, because I can't quite see it, I think picture B is probably kindergarten.
Yeah.
Or kindergarten, because usually that, even though it's a T, we usually pronounce it just like, it's the German word like children's garden. Which I attended because I lived in Canada briefly as a kid, and I went to kindergarten, I remember.
Oh, did you like it?
I did. I remember. I vaguely remember though. In Canada, you have to sing the Canadian national anthem every morning, and I still remember. I still remember all the words, which completely useless piece of information.
But they do, swear their loyalty to your queen. So it's a win-win.
They do. See, that I think is high school. You think? Yeah, or second,
But
or
I have
yeah.
which high schooler wears a tie to school though?
Private schools.
Private school.
If you've seen any images, Michelle, of private schools in the United Kingdom,
Right.
it's quite a common uniform to have almost like a suit, like to give students a blazer, as it's known. A blazer is, a suit jacket, and the tie. That's quite a uniform, especially in private schools in the UK, because unlike many countries, Britain has school uniforms.
Right.
For example, here in Italy, you're allowed to wear what you want to school, also in France, also in the United States. But in Britain, we have to wear a uniform to school until we are 16 years old.
Both public and private?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we have something similar as well. We have to wear uniforms. Right. If you're in school, you wear a uniform.
Right.
That's about it. Right up to 18, actually.
Up to 18. Okay. Yeah.
Up to 18.
For us, it's 16. When you go to college, then you're allowed to wear your own clothes. And I know that in America, the whole argument about school uniforms is quite a heated one because of their First Amendment. It's about freedom of expression. It's for them. It's about your. Are you shaking your head?
I'm rolling my eyes. You can't see me.
I could feel it though. I could feel it through the computer screen. No, for both both for the US and also for the French, it's considered a question of freedom of expression that you cannot legally require children to wear uniforms.
I do agree with that. That yes, children should be allowed to express themselves, etc., etc. But I do think school uniforms are a great equalizer in schools.
That's the argument. Yeah, that's the argument in favor.
And children can be brutal, children are innocent, but the words that they come out of their mouths can be really hurtful. And I think especially when they're younger, it's important to, ensure that there's no differences between them. So they all wear the same clothes, they all wear the same shoes, they wear the same socks. And because my school was run by Irish nuns, they took it a step further. And we weren't... We were only allowed to wear 3 colors, like in terms of hair ties or hair bands or even glasses. The colors were black because, that blends in with everything. White because that was the color of the uniform, and green because we're Pakistanis. So we were only allowed.
I was going to say why. I thought you were going to say grey, something dull, but of course green for Pakistan. Right.
Yes,
okay.
And that's it. Those were the only 3 colors that were allowed on your person in any way or form, and that's it. Yeah. And it was a great equalizer.
But I have another question about the uniforms. And I feel like this is something I've maybe seen in films and on TV and stuff. Are the uniforms not suited for the weather? Are they kind of British style uniforms, which are great if you live on an island in the North Atlantic? But I always feel like when I've seen footage of children going to school in India, in Pakistan, they always look like they're wearing too much considering the weather, the temperature. Who wears knee-high socks when it's 35 degrees?
Yeah, the younger children, unfortunately, do have to go through that. So right up to primary school, right till the end of primary school, we wear those knee-high socks and a little sash and
a sash.
Yeah, like a beauty queen.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, we had a green sash.
What does it say, students?
No, we were divided into groups based on, they were called houses and they were based off color. Okay. So red was endeavor, and blue was courtesy, yellow was I don't remember, etc.
Different like virtues.
Yeah, so we each belonged to one house, and we would wear the badge with the
No
Three.
way. That's
Yeah.
so cute. What about hats? Were you required to wear hats?
No. We were never required to wear hats, but we were always, because it was just girls, it was an all-girls school, so we had to dye our hair up. So
Okay.
if your hair was below cheek length, not even below your neck, below cheek length, you have to put it up in some way or form. Open hair was strongly frowned upon, so were bangs. So if any hair was to come in front of your face, our principal was an Irish nut. She would call us up during assembly onto the stage and physically pin our bangs up.
Oh my God. That's old school.
Yeah, good times, good times.
My mum went to a Catholic school in Manchester, and she, as part of her uniform, was required to wear, honestly, a tri-corner hat, like in the 18th century.
Whoa.
You know the old hats, just for the students. It's the hat that's like a triangle. And my mum was required by her also very strict ruler wielding, hand smacking Catholic nun teachers.
Yep.
To wear. And did you have corporal punishment in the school, Michelle?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. like absolutely.
But I always managed to get away with it. But there wasn't serious corporate punishment being doled out. Like if we forgot our book for the relevant subject, we would have to, put out our palms and then we would be smacked like on our open palms with a ruler.
My God, just setting you guys up for a lifetime of therapy and weird relationships with authority and violence.
Oh yeah, and we would have to kneel in the corner sometimes. Yeah, they punish people weird things though. I think my most traumatizing memory is when I was in kindergarten and I was punished. We called it prep school, and I was, preparatory school. I was punished for reading too fast. I was like 4.
Oh my God, reading too fast.
Yeah, that was reading too fast. I was 4 years old. You should be happy I was able to read.
Well, here's that. I think that answers question number 1.
On.
That answers the first question. But did you like school?
I did not enjoy school.
No, I can imagine.
Not particularly, no.
No,
not particularly.
Sorry, go ahead. There was a lag. Go ahead.
No, how about you?
I mean, I liked school because I liked reading and I enjoyed my classes a lot. I enjoyed, especially, I really liked my history teacher. For example, I really liked my English teacher. So, the actual educational side of it, I really enjoyed. The social side of it, high school wasn't a big thing for me. I know for a lot of people, high school has all of these kind of important moments and experiences. For me, I feel like that came later in college and university.
Right.
For example, I'm actually not super close to my friends from high school. I'm much closer to my friends from university.
Right, likewise.
For example, like when I go home back to England, I'll see my friends from high school and it's nice, but I don't keep in touch with them. Like my friends from university, for example, I talk to them like every day. I didn't really fit in high school. I was shockingly, it may seem, I was seen as a bit of a nerd. I know that's probably really hard for you to believe.
So was I, Liam. So was I. It is ours. The nerds shall inherit the earth.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was that thing where you're a student who, you're kind of, I liked reading. I wasn't terrible. I wasn't extremely sporty, even though I did like sport. And I definitely wasn't one of the cool kids. I was like I was in the middle. I was liked by the cool kids, but I wasn't one of them, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I was exactly where you were, where I could get along with everyone, but I didn't necessarily fit in everywhere. So
yeah, like everyone, I feel like everyone liked me. I just wasn't. It was like everyone liked me, but I wasn't very popular, if that makes sense.
Okay, that was a small difference. Everyone was afraid of me. Not
Why? Why?
Okay, it's not that I was a bully myself, but I would get really offended if I saw someone else bullying someone else. So I was a kid and I just took it upon myself that, if anyone was being unkind to anyone within my vicinity,
Yeah.
I would react, and my reaction would be proportionate to their bullying.
That's not a bad thing.
But I took it a step further, of course, and I was known as the girl who made other girls cry.
The girl who makes other girls cry.
Yeah. So, yes, maybe they didn't like me. They were just a bit terrified of me because I did make a fair number of girls cry, but they were being nasty to someone else.
Well, I was going to say though, girls who deserved it, right?
Yeah,
girls
definitely.
who were being mean. Girls who were being mean to other girls then.
Yeah, girls were being mean to other girls, and girls were just like, being unnecessarily, not necessarily mean, but just, how high school can get very cliquish.
Yes.
And you don't have to be outwardly mean to hurt someone.
Absolutely not. You can shun someone, for example.
Exactly. So that's a good word, to shun someone. So in situations like that.
Because I don't care, I don't care what country you're in or what type of society you're in. High school is always going to have that. It just is. It doesn't matter where you are in the world,
Yeah, absolutely.
What about your school? My school was actually divided into two different sites. So for the first 3 years, we were in one school that was like in the middle of my little like town. And then for the final 2 years, the school was kind of a bit further away, and it was like a mile that I would walk every day.
Wow.
But I enjoyed it. It was just because it was also to avoid taking the bus, because the bus, because the school bus was like a zoo. And I didn't want to take it, so I would walk instead. But I enjoyed walking. Yeah. Where was your school? Was your school in the city or?
Yeah, it was actually very close to my house, but not within walking distance. Also, in my city, no one really walks because it's very hot. So
yes.
About a 10-minute, 15-minute drive away, but each section was on a separate site. So we had our kindergarten or our preparatory school somewhere else. So it's all in the same area, but just different locations.
Okay, right. And would your parents drive you to school, or would you take the bus?
No, we had a school van. So
okay.
A private van that just picked up the kids from that particular school, and our folks would pay the guy, and he would come pick us up, drop us off at school, and then pick us up in the afternoon, because both my parents worked, so there was really no one available at lunchtime to come get me.
So it was like a minivan.
No, it was a van. It was decent size.
Oh, okay, it was bigger.
It was bigger than a minivan, but smaller than a coaster.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Okay. What didn't you like about school? I don't know. It's when people ask me, it's really hard to explain my feelings about high school. I didn't hate it and I didn't love it. I was just indifferent, is how I would describe my relationship with secondary school.
Yeah.
Like I said, I liked a lot of my teachers, and I liked my classes, especially history and English. because I was good at them, and I didn't enjoy maths because I was very bad at it.
Same.
Were you? Yeah, were you bad at maths?
I was horrible at math and physics. In fact, my physics teacher was so horrible to me. 2 days before the final, A-level exam, she told me, O-level exam. She said, if you study really hard for the next 48 hours, you might get a D. I was so offended.
Did you? I have to ask.
I got a B. Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
But I think part of it was just because I was so determined to prove her wrong.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So wait, your exams, the exams at the end of secondary school in Pakistan. You said you call those O levels?
Yeah, we do the same exams, except we do them, in Pakistan through the British Council.
So right, because we used to call them O levels, but then they changed. Then they changed a few. Like when I was at high school, they were called GCSEs. That's General Certificate of Secondary Education. But now I think they've changed the name of them again. And also we used to be graded with a letter. Now in the UK, you're given a number. So it's a bit more like here in Italy, for example.
Oh, really? So now they don't have the A or the B? Interesting.
No, they've gone to, as far as I understand it, they've gone to this number system. In fact, one of the consequences of the coronavirus lockdown is, unfortunately, students around the world aren't going to be able to do their exams. So schools are trying to find a way to either do the exams later, or even just give students a grade based on their performance in other areas. So you to kind of forecast what your grade would have been.
Right. I think that makes sense because, you can't really test a student's knowledge or their understanding on a subject in 2 hours because that's 9 months of studying.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Pretty decent. Okay. I'm very interested at how they've changed their name and now they've changed it to numbers. Because I think a couple of years after we graduated, we had A, which was the highest, right? And then you had a B, and then you had a C. Then they introduced the A star.
Us too. We did that.
You did that. Okay, that was before my time, the A star, which I just was so offended about because my A's
suddenly dropped.
Yeah, I was like, my A's, if I tell someone, oh, I got an A now, they're going to be like, oh, so that's 80%. And I'm like, no, it's 99, just because you have, never mind.
It's all coming out. It's all coming out.
So much resentment.
Absolutely. You're quite right. You're quite right. No, we had the A star. I remember that was the top grade. That was the top grade you could get.
Right. And now they've changed it again, which is interesting because I think education needs to evolve, right? In terms of how it's taught, how it's graded.
I do too.
How it's measured.
I would just say to any government, I would just say copy Finland. Do what Finland does.
What does Finland do?
Finland has what's regarded as the best education system in Europe, if not the world. One of the things they do that's admired by a lot of people, including me, is they don't really do exams.
Really?
Yeah, your level and your proficiency in a subject is decided by your kind of overall academic performance in things like your maybe essay writing or homework, but most importantly, in consultation with your teacher.
Oh, that's amazing.
So the idea is that you're not, because I think their thing is that exams very often can just be tests of memory and of recall, which isn't necessarily the same as, like you said, for example, critical thinking or problem solving. It's and if you look at the stats, the kind of rankings around the world, Finland is always, in the top 3, basically.
Yes, that makes sense.
And I know, in fact, that in the past, I know that the British government has sent people from the Department of Education to kind of investigate how they do it in Finland to see if they can learn from them.
Fantastic. I really appreciate how people seem to be aware that education is also something that needs to keep changing and evolving. Like when I was in kindergarten, they didn't focus on things like sorting and having conversations. It was very rigid, 1 + 1 is 2, learn your ABCs. Can you produce this poetry, this poem?
Which again is just, can you memorize something?
Right. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that my parents, especially my mum, would get very frustrated with what she saw as the school. Oh my God, the windows have just blown open. I've been plunged into darkness. Hang on a second. Let me just fix that while I'm going to keep talking though, because I've got a pair of headphones on. So let me just go and fix that.
Absolutely.
My parents would get very frustrated by the way that they felt like I was just being taught how to pass an exam instead of being taught, how to kind of think, how to analyze, how to think critically. It was basically like, it's just box ticking. It's a way for the school to make sure, because the school has a target of this many students need to get this number of A levels or B levels or C, and then that becomes just the way the school then says to the teachers, okay, make sure all your students pass this exam. It wasn't like, do you understand why you have to pass it, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got punished for some really strange things, like I said, back in school. So things that I think today we would question, we would definitely question. But back in the day, it was I'm not that old, guys. I'm not that old.
Michelle, I was going to say, you're not talking about the 50s.
Back in the day, guys, when we used candles for light, things were different.
Yes. Back in the day, Michelle basically sounding like she's like talking about pre-partition or something. Like,
okay, so let's match these subjects to the pictures and then do a quick wrap up.
Sure. So we've got 6 subjects here. The first one, again, if I can see it, that looks like art, a subject which, again, I feel like was very badly taught in my school.
So badly in my school as well.
It's horrible.
You could only take art if you were good at art. So there was no opportunity to learn.
Oh, lovely. Oh, God, that's encouraging. I'm guessing
B.
Yeah, B is math, or as we say in Britain, we say maths with an S. And math like that is American. C, that'll be a very familiar image to a lot of our students, those legionaries.
Yeah.
Or centurions, or that's history, which was that was my favorite subject, was history.
Really, my favorite subject was literature.
Yeah, that was my other favorite, and those were the only 2 that I got like A star and A's in anyway, so that was probably why. D is science, because that looks like someone doing chemistry.
Right. Did you like science?
I liked it, but I wasn't good at it. I was okay at biology. I was quite good at biology, but I wasn't very good at physics or chemistry. But in my defense, I don't think it was very well taught.
Right. We're the same person, Liam. I was really good at biology. And physics, I just powered through, but I dropped chem because.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned more since then by reading popular science books, for example, and watching things on YouTube than I did in school, if I'm honest.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to chemistry. I feel like YouTube has taught me far more about how to add protons and ions than my chem teacher ever did.
And I feel like the whole coronavirus thing, I am basically an epidemiologist now. I am basically a doctor after this.
You're going to give Dr. Fauci a run for his money.
Look, after 2008, we all became amateur economists, and now we're all amateur virologists.
Yep, pretty soon we'll all be amateur. Okay, it's going to be dark. Okay.
And the last one, geography. Another subject that I feel like could have been more interesting, but I feel like the geography teacher was always boring.
Yeah, I really liked geography because I really liked it. I was good at geography. I understood it. I liked, mapping out all the rivers and plains.
Yeah, I liked all of that. Yeah, and I liked learning about where places were and the different things like, different weather, different climates, things like that.
Yeah, and
all right, guys. Well,
you could grow in different climates. I found that very interesting.
I still find all that interesting. Okay, guys, I hope you've enjoyed Michelle and I's trip down memory lane, and probably you've learned a lot about us. The next time you see us, you might be saying, like, it's okay, don't worry, high school was a long time ago. I feel like a lot came out in that.
A lot more than I intended to came out. I hope none of my teachers do this.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and to those of you watching later on, and be sure to tune in to all the rest of the webinars running this week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.